that certain things must be done. If it's just this research already, I think there's a lot of possibility, including running at this time.
Okay, you ready? It's 6:30 p.m. I hereby call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you. I am delighted to see everyone here tonight for the budget workshop. Yay! It's the best day of the year.
Are we going to do that first, Mayor? We're going to do the budget first?
We will go through our regular city council meeting, and upon adjournment, then we will move right into a budget workshop. So stick around. After tonight, the next budget workshop is Tuesday evening, the 18th of June, starting at 6:30 p.m. in this room. And after that, our next council meeting is the 20th of June, and that meeting will be at 9:30 in the morning. Did I forget anything? Thank you. At this time, we have public comment.
Yes, Mayor, we have 10 people signed up. The first person to speak is Mr. Tim O'Brien.
I got here early so I could comment and get out of here before the budget meeting. I just wanted you to know that. I'm Tim O'Brien. I live in Kedron Hills. We've lived in Kedron Hills for about the last 10 years. Out of the last 25, we've lived 18 in Peachtree City. And I just want to be clear, I'm not here to talk about opening Crabapple Lane to automobile traffic. I'm here to talk about opening Crabapple Lane to our neighbors in Tyrone for golf cart traffic, okay? And I'm here to ask the council a question. But first, I'd like to just kind of go through some numbers. And here's where I'm going to make friends with my neighbors. We had a homeowners association meeting last week to talk about this. I counted heads. There were about 60 heads in attendance, give or take. Clint, you were there. There are about 200 homes in Kedron Hills, right? So if you just do the quick math and say 200 homes, 60, how many households had enough energy and passion around this to actually get to that meeting? And it's about 15%. So 15% of the households were at the meeting, at the homeowners association meeting yesterday. There are 3 homeowners associations that we're talking about: Kedron Hills, Kedron Estates, and Greenwood Estates. There are 240 homes in those 3 homeowners associations. If you just say an average of 3.5 homes, that's 840 people that live in that neighborhood. I just did a quick count when we were in here, and there's somewhere around 80 people, give or take. I think that's a little bit high. Out of the 840 that live in those 3 homeowners associations that had enough energy and passion to come here tonight and argue that Kedron, or that Crabapple Lane should remain closed. But my real question is, and this is where I can't quite understand, because I have tremendous respect for people that have an argument to keep Crabapple Lane closed. What I can't understand is we have a small minority, even of that community, that has enough energy to come out to a city council meeting and argue to keep Crabapple Lane closed. But there are 38,000 people, citizens of Peachtree City, and we just lost $1.7 million in tip money for no other reason than we wouldn't vote to open Crabapple Lane to golf carts coming from Tyrone. We not only lost 1.7 million, we are being threatened with other services. Fayette County, they're responsible for our education system, for allocation of government funds, and I just don't think, for a small minority, by all account, that lives in those 3 homeowners associations, that's a wise fight. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next person to speak is Donald Myers.
Thank you. First, I realize what a blessing it is to live in a place where, without fear, I can come to my elected officials and speak without retribution. The original purpose of the closure of Crabapple Lane into the back of our Kedron Hill subdivision has not changed. The purpose was to eliminate an increasing amount of unsafe shortcut traffic through the middle of Kedron Hills down the curving Loring Lane, so they could exit either on a cart path or, in the case of vehicles, out the entrance to Peachtree Parkway. A main motivation of the shortcut traffic was to expedite to go to the Kedron Hill shopping area, so this was not a slow and cautious group of carts and vehicles. Our playground and pool are right on Loring Lane, and they're downrange from the shortcut. Because of the ever-increasing housing going up in Tyrone, right near the Crabapple Lane shortcut, without the closure, the safety situation was going to get worse and worse. Without an alternative cart path around Kedron Hills, the closure was the right thing to do for the safety of our neighborhood, and it continues to be so. Case in point, on my way home this afternoon, there were 2 landscape trucks and trailers parked at their respective houses where they were working on Loring Lane, both along different curving sections where the visibility would be reduced. Having more and more golf carts, some of whose only agenda is to get through Kedron Hills, is just asking for an accident to happen in our neighborhood. Now, being an old military guy, I learned early on that you should always try to come up with a solution to a problem when you talk to your boss. It appears unlikely that you can affect an alternate cart path solution through Tyrone down along Dogwood Lane, the Dogwood Trail, a trail that goes along the old highway at parallel 74 and to what is known as the World Headquarters Complex, and then over to the Kedron Hill shopping area. It sounds like it might be a bigger problem than we can handle in this room. But perhaps we can revisit selling the patch of Crabapple Lane that is inside Kedron Hills to our homeowners association, with the same logical, previously discussed stipulations attached. And maybe this will get the monkey off your back. Thanks.
Thank you. Next?
Next person to speak is,
Excuse me.
next person to speak is Ned Colgrove.
I brought some visual aids. I hope that's allowed. All right. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm Ned Colgrove. I'm a resident of Kedron Hills here in Peachtree City. This guy's Miller. This is my 2-year-old son. 3-year-old son. See why I confused that. Sophie is our 2-year-old daughter. And it gets really confusing because this is Maggie and she's coming in July. And this is my pregnant wife over here who's carrying all the effort on that front, my wife Lauren. She's a graduate of McIntosh right here in Peachtree City, and this community is our home. One more visual aid. Broad visual for you here. This is the path that our family walks right on Loring Lane from Kimsey Court to get to that playground that was mentioned just a moment ago in Kedron Hills. It's not far, maybe 200 yards, but there are no sidewalks, right? Let me just do this. There are no sidewalks, so when we bring our wagon of toys and our kids, about 4 times in that span, we climb up off the hill, off the road onto the hill, onto my neighbor Mark Carlton's property there, as the traffic comes through as we make our way to the playground. I'm certain that no family has used this playground more over the last 3 years. We enjoy what it offers. It has also given us a front row seat to observe the traffic impact at this time, which has dramatically improved from the Crabapple Lane closure. So yes, I am concerned about the safety of our family, as significantly more traffic could be forced directly down the street. We're also concerned with a broader question. The listings in the expanding enclave at Stonecrest Preserve, just outside our city, 1.16 million, 1.28 million, beautiful homes, and shows you, by the way, that this isn't an elitist position we're taking in Kedron Hills, because whoever's buying those homes clearly is making more money than I am. But the point is that those prices, a lot of money stands to be made marketing them for access to our city's path system. And look at the sales agent's homepage today. If If you look it up, that's exactly how it reads. Have your cake and eat it too. So to make good on that pitch, our council is left with a choice. In order to what? Prioritize development for development not in our city. We make decisions that negatively impact our own citizens who pay dues to our neighborhood in Peachtree City, taxes to the city, and have elected you all sitting here tonight. You stated 2 years ago, Madam Mayor, feedback on this issue made it clear that, quote, what the council really needed to do was to plan for the future. You needed, quote, an alternative route. Please don't make us a doormat. I agree that if the city and the county are truly concerned with connecting these communities through the path system, then please come up with a thoughtful plan to do so through the path system, not this broken down, dusty road. That sounds like the opposite of the hospitable
Your time
experience
has expired.
you're focused on, Mayor.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. Next.
Next person to speak is Jennifer Braden.
I'm not as tall as you are.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Jennifer Braden. I live in Kedron Hills. I want to talk about the closure as well. Several years ago, it was a no-brainer to close Crabapple Lane to cars after Kedron Hills requested the city to look into it. It was actually the city council that came back to our neighborhood and suggested we close it down to golf carts as well. The point city council was making was that it wasn't really a problem at that time, but it would be a problem in the future, and it would be nearly impossible to fix at that time. What happened to that city council who had my back? What happened to the people who sat up here and cared about the safety of our neighborhoods, of the city in which they serve? The ones who thought of our future. You are my city council, and all I'm doing is asking for my neighborhood to be as safe as it could possibly be. So I question you, why do you not unwaveringly have my back? That's the big elephant in the room, isn't it? Why? At one time, we were given the very transparent excuse that you wanted us to be good neighbors. Well, we in Kedron Hills have been called names, harassed, threatened, and now rumors are spreading that they have upped the game to blackmail. When I had that term, I actually called Mr. Rapson, and we had a lengthy conversation. We did not agree on some things, but I listened to him, and I really feel like he heard me. I asked him to consider to put the pressure on the city of Tyrone where it belongs, and he agreed that he would consider it. When asked about the threatened 911 and animal control funds, he told me, and I'm quoting, "No one has threatened to take away or degrade public safety." And he didn't know where any of that came from, because it's not even in the purview of the county. So where did that threat come from? Is there somebody that's deceitful enough that is lying to the city council for them to vote a certain way? After the vote, please ask yourself why you voted the way you did. Do you love this city, and do you love its residents? Or did you vote the way you did because it's a bigger transportation plan? Did you vote the way you did because you side with Tyrone and county developers over Peachtree City residents? Did you vote the way you did because money's involved in selling the new houses as golf cart path accessible? If you're going to turn your back on us, please say your reasoning out loud for us all to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Person to speak is Mark Carlton.
Evening. My name is Mark Carlton. I've been a resident of Peachtree City for 38 years. My wife and I have raised 6 daughters here, 3 of which have come back here to live, accounting for 7 of our 11 grandchildren living here in Peachtree City. We've lived in Kedron Hills for 9 years, and we supported the closure of Crabapple Lane to reduce the traffic, thereby making it safer. Living at the corner of Loring Lane and Kimsey Court, which backs up to the neighborhood pool, the playground, and where the school buses stop to let out the kids, gives us an advantage to observe the effect of the Crabapple closure. The lock gate produced an immediate and drastic effect in reducing traffic on the lane. I do not see a difference between a golf cart going 20 miles an hour or a car going 30 miles an hour. If a child is hit, the result will be devastating. I'm asking you to be proactive and keep the gate closed, not reactive and wait for a devastating accident to change lives. We would urge you to look for an alternative solution.
Thank you. Next.
Next person to speak is Scott Beamer.
Hi, my name is Scott Beamer. I'm the president of the Kedron Hills HOA. I've been here before. I never thought I'd be back again for like the 6th time, but here I am. I'm asking for your help to protect our neighborhood's safety and the quality of life. It's been a long and complicated process, but closing Crabapple Road was and still is the right thing to do. That's why our residents remain committed to keeping it closed. I appreciate all the hard work of our city officials who made it happen. The same parties that were here when the road was closed 3 years ago are still here. Kedron Hills residents, the city, the county, the developers, unfortunately, who are building something like 400 new homes directly adjacent to our neighborhood. The town of Tyrone has also been a player, but now Tyrone doesn't really appear to have any interest in finding a legitimate solution to the problem. The city, back in 2022, they provided Tyrone, for example, an additional 6 months to begin work on a solution, but they chose to do nothing. So here are some key points that deserve mention. Peachtree City elected to close Crabapple after the county tried to use the dirt road as an access point to our city pass system. One of the many reasons Peachtree City was not supportive of that plan was because it required access through a subdivision, namely Kedron Hills. That was not allowed in the master path plan. Peachtree City did the right thing when they pushed back against the county's flawed plan. Even Steve Rapson, the county administrator, admitted that there was some sensitivity, understatement, about the access point and that the city had the right to block access to their road. The city correctly pointed out that Peachtree City taxpayers fund the #1 amenity in our city. Builders and real estate agents at the time were touting the fact that new homes could be purchased and enjoy the same access to Peachtree City without having to pay for it. And they still are today. The inherent conflicts between cars, carts, pedestrians, cyclists on our neighborhood streets was another valid reason for closing the road to traffic coming from outside our community. Again, safety was a concern, and it still is. There are several viable, legitimate options available to the county and the city that could solve the problem and create an access point to the Peachtree City path system. So here we are again, almost having to beg our city officials to do the right thing and keep Crabapple Road closed. The cheap and easy solution to this problem would be at the expense of Kedron Hills residents.
Thank you for your comment.
It makes us collateral damage and diminishes our neighborhood. Please do not be intimidated into making a bad decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next person to speak is Katrina Hitchens.
Hi, my name is Katrina Hitchens. I'm a retired Air Force officer, business owner, mama to 2, as well as a Kedron Hills resident. I want to talk to you why my family chose Peachtree City and Kedron Hills to live, and then ask you 2 very important questions. Last year, we met Rebecca Taylor, our realtor, and she took us all over Fayette County looking for a home. We fell in love with Kedron Hills. During summer, we came out, we saw kids playing in the street, riding their bikes, playing basketball. We even went to a swim meet, and I tell you, the entire neighborhood was littered with cars. You couldn't park anywhere. It was amazing, and it was one of the best places to raise a family. And the reason why is we actually met our home sellers. They invited us in for dinner. They took care of our kids, and they gave us the keys to the golf cart, and they said, hey, you and your husband, go have a date. You know what? A year later, my son broke his leg, and they were the first people I called. Military, we don't have family nearby. Coming here, I still don't have family nearby. I have my community. I have our neighborhood. That has become our family. And that shows you just with the McCanns, they became our family just like the rest of the neighborhood. When you open Crabapple Lane, you're creating a thoroughfare road. And those people, they don't care about the kids playing outside. They're not going to look at it as a home. They're going to look at it as a shortcut that saves at like the best case scenario, 6 minutes, or worst case, 6 minutes. I am unfortunately part of a very selective club that I wish upon no one, and that's burying a loved one, but not just a loved one, my niece, all right, who died in a traffic accident. So, my 2 questions to you. What has changed? In 2021 or 22, when it was decided, it was unanimous to close it for safety concerns. What has changed? My second question, what is a life worth? There are other options about creating an access path that does not go through a neighborhood, that does not sacrifice the safety of children, of residents, of your Peachtree City family. We value safety, we value families. What is a life worth to you? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next person to sign up to speak is Joan Brennan Atkins.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Just tilt it down just a little bit.
Thank you. My name is Joan Brennan Adkins. My husband, Denny, and I live in Kedron Hills, 709 Greenwood Lane. We feel strongly that the entrance to Kedron Hills subdivision from Crabapple Lane should remain closed to all traffic, including golf carts. New and future planned development in Tyrone and Fayette County would result in hundreds of additional golf carts funneling through our neighborhood en route to the multipath system in Peachtree City. The residents of Kedron Hills voiced their concerns last Wednesday at an HOA meeting that we had at the pool. Concern number 1, safety. Mothers have expressed concern about the safety of their children walking to the school bus and riding their bicycles. Loring Lane is winding with limited sight distance. Number 2, preservation of property value. The homeowners have made a substantial investment in our homes. We made a choice to live in Peachtree City, and we pay higher taxes which support the maintenance of the golf cart path system. Number 3, quality of life. The Tyrone residents mostly use gas-powered golf carts, which are loud and they emit gas fumes. This disrupts the peace and quiet that we were looking for when we bought homes in Kedron Hills. And lastly, Peachtree City Code of Ordinances and Peachtree City Comprehensive Plan both assign financial responsibility for installing connecting paths to the main path system to developers. This should be no different whether we're talking about developers within Peachtree City or outside of Peachtree City. And also, the county's master plan stipulates that golf cart traffic coming from outside of the city should not go through residential streets. We recognize that the Peachtree City Council has come under pressure from Fayette County and the City of Tyrone and the developers. The Mayor of Tyrone and the Fayette County Commissioners would prefer to route golf cart traffic through Kedron Hills because it's the no-cost option for them. However, they're looking to improve their position at our expense. The objectives of the Atlanta Regional Commission, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and the Transportation Improvement Plan do not endorse supporting the growth of one community at the expense of another. Therefore, we respectfully ask you to vote to keep Crabapple Lane closed. Please consider the importance
Your time
of
has expired.
representing
Thank you
your
for your comment.
constituents, the Peachtree City taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
The next person to speak is Todd Weinrib.
Good evening.
thanks, Joan. That's about right for me, so appreciate it. My name is Todd Weinreib. I live in Kedron Hills, and I first want to start off by saying thank you to Scott. I know you're here somewhere. Scott Beamer and Russ Korn for the amount of effort they put in for our neighborhood. I know there's an unpaid job, but it's becoming very difficult for them, so thank you. I teach my kids nothing is free, right? If you're getting it from somebody that didn't pay for it, it's just as bad as you taking it. So someone has to pay for it, right? So nothing is free. So like Joan was saying, Tyrone is wanting us to pay for this, right? They haven't put forth any effort. We spoke earlier saying that, I think it was 6 months the first time for Tyrone to come up with a plan. Nothing happened. So I think it was extended either 6 months or a year, still nothing, right? So I'm not sure why we're bending for them when they haven't even bent for themselves. I was here last month, and I thanked everybody in this board, at this council, for supporting us. And then I get home and I hear all about that we're being pressured by the county and that things are about to change and that votes are gonna change. That was shocking because I don't understand that when I sat here and said thank you and I appreciate y'all's effort, protecting us, and yet the whole time there's something else going on. If someone's blackmailing you, you don't support that person. That's easy, right? It goes back to nothing is free. So if someone's blackmailing you, it's coming from somewhere, right? Stand up to it. And we're also talking about numbers earlier. I called golf cart companies, and these gas golf carts, besides being loud and having a lot of exhaust, they can travel from 100 to 180 miles on a gas tank. I was floored. With that path that goes all the way down Far Road, that's only 3.4 miles to Target. So every person, and I know I go to Target like 4 times a day because I forget something every time, will be coming through our neighborhood to Target. And when they do that, they're gonna take Loring Lane all the way. I know, Dave, I know you've got a rock in your front yard because there were problems with traffic before, and he had to put a rock by his mailbox so no one would hit the house, right? Don, I think you have a pretty tough blind curve, right? Like we were talking about with the landscapers. All we're saying is do the right thing. Keep our neighborhood safe. I'm actually willing, I got a tractor, I'm willing to clear some land on that old 74. I'll do it myself, right? I'll work with everybody from Tyrone or from Peachtree City, from our
Your
Kedron
time
Hills,
has
get it
expired.
cleared.
Thank you
But
for your comment.
I'm not willing just to let our neighborhood take the brunt. I'd prefer to close the gate and take all the keys back too. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Last person signed up to speak is Zach Braden.
I didn't hear the name.
Zach Braden.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Zach Braden. I live in Kedron Hills on Loring Lane. What I've heard here this evening is that the county is pressuring the city council of Peachtree City to, at a minimum, open Crabapple Lane to golf carts for access to our cart path system through the Kedron Hills neighborhood. At this time, the city has already lost out on the ability to apply for the TIP funding, and we may or may not be being coerced by threats to remove certain services from the city. Why is the county trying to do this? To me, the answer has been cleared up over the past couple of weeks when really working on this. The county's main concern is maximum interconnectivity. Rapson says so himself. The easiest way for this to occur is opening of Crabapple. That's it. It's that simple. However, even the county admits that it is out of their control and it is up to Peachtree City Council members to take this decision up. The easiest option is not always the best option. I guarantee you that if previous city councils only took the easy routes in the past for major decisions and minor decisions at that too, this city would not be where it is today. To my knowledge, there has not been a meeting with the leadership of all 3 entities, Peachtree City, Tyrone, and the county, to discuss this matter at large. I've heard of lots of individual conversations, but not a collective conversation. Why in the world not? Seems pretty logical to me. There are options on the table that, yes, require negotiation, collaboration, and additional resources. but are all better for all that are all better for all and meet the needs for all involved. After you vote to not open Crabapple, this should be the immediate next step to find a resolution. You represent the people of Peachtree City, not Tyrone or the county. If you give in to the county's pressure on this issue, you are letting the residents of Kedron Hills and Peachtree City down. What happens when this county wants to do their next thing, whether it be big or small? Instead of working with you, they will simply coerce the city once again, and the cycle will continue until members of the council have the intestinal fortitude to stand up for what is right for their constituents. I ask you to be strong leaders, stand up for us, and vote no to reopening Crabapple.
Thank you.
That's all that's signed up.
Thank you. Minutes, May 16th, 2024, regular meeting minutes. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes to the May 16th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consent Agenda A, Fiscal Year 2024 Budget Amendment, reclassification of Human Resources Coordinator to Human Resources Generalist. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New agenda item A, approve purchase contract for property located at 104 Guthrie Way, Peachtree City.
Mayor and council, before you is an agreement with the property owner. This is the property that's adjacent to the gun range that the city has under contract. We've negotiated back and forth and have come to an agreement subject to council approval, of course. This contract is virtually identical to the one that was approved for the gun range property. We have shortened some time periods in terms of due diligence, but that's simply because we've done a lot of work already in that area with respect to the acquisition of the gun range property. Other than that, it's in proper legal form, subject to your approval.
Can I get a motion and a second, and then we'll open it up for any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase contract for property located at 104 Guthrie Way, Peachtree City, Georgia. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, any questions or discussion?
I only
Mr.
have one
Holland?
for our esteemed counselor. Anything gonna come out of this and bite us? Or does it look pretty clean to you?
It's very clean. There's not any, there's really no earnest money. If we walk away, there's very minimal, like less than, I think it's $100.
Clint's got that.
Good job.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New agenda item B, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, allocate funds for police annex building.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This item B here is kind of in tandem with item A. It's a budget amendment to basically to move the funds around to complete the purchases for the gun range property itself, which was already approved in a previous council meeting to purchase. Now that we're looking at this other property, it is also funds to reallocate to purchase this additional property that was just approved in the previous motion. And then it is also funds to start the renovation of the gun range property once we acquire it into a police building. All total, the budget amendment is for $8.5 million. 3.2 million of it is coming from Facilities Authority bond that was approved a few years ago. So we will pay the rest of what we have in there towards this project. For about 400,000 of it is coming from police impact fees. So development we have pays into our impact fees for police, fire, and pass. We will use what we have in the police impact fees to go towards this as well. And then the remaining balance will be covered by cash reserves, which I've talked with a few of you about this, but in my opinion, this is a good use of cash reserves. It's a one-time purchase of property, which will also go back into our books as an asset. It's not funding any operations, so I think it's a good investment for, you know, to use cash reserves for and for the future of our community as well.
Council, I'll take a motion in a second so that we can open it up for discussion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, allocate funds for police annex building.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Council staff topics, Transportation Advisory Group.
All right, so you have in your packet, and this is a council staff topic, so we do not need a motion on this. But you have in your packet a draft that staff put together of a potential transportation advisory group that we would like to establish, that council has also given staff the go-ahead that they would like to establish some of these groups as well. The first one that we're bringing to you is the Transportation Advisory Group. The main purpose of this is, Mr. Larson, I see you're here tonight. You know, you served on the PATH, the MUPSAG group that we established my first year here, which was a temporary group. And the idea for this group kind of came from that. It's a temporary, it was a,
You got your microphone back.
There it is. It was a temporary group we established that year. The idea was, what if we established a permanent standing path group, and then that kind of evolved to, we really need a group to take up more than just paths. We need to be looking at all forms of transportation in the city. And when we say transportation, we mean the path system, we mean our road system, any ADA issues that we can identify on the path and road system as well. So in your packet, you'll see that we've kind of came up with what the membership of this group would look like, what the concept of the group is, some broad objectives in the bullets, and what I'm kind of looking forward to is a discussion from council of this draft and any direction moving forward with what you would like to see from this. So I'll open it up to you all.
Council?
Do you want to discuss or make a motion on it?
Oh,
Or
just discuss.
Don't need a motion.
Okay, don't need a motion. Okay, go ahead.
Anybody?
I do. But go ahead, Frank.
I just want to make sure that when we talked about it in 2x2, that the mayor's going to be on that council if she wants to be.
Yeah, correct, because our ordinance does provide that the mayor serves on any committee or group as an ex officio, so that would not prevent this.
Okay.
However, I do support this application process, and I trust Justin in the process.
I think the application process where everybody can submit whoever they want to be on there is a good opportunity for us to look at the individuals and select the people we'd like to see on the committee. So that's much like the planning commission, and I think that's a great way of doing it.
Yes, we would want it to be a competitive process and not just a appointment by individual council members. We want to do a competitive process like we do the planning commission or the airport authority.
Nice job.
Yeah, Ms. Brown?
Okay. First of all, kudos to Justin and Jasmine for putting this together and taking some of the oddball comments that had come out and really kind of organizing it into a well-written, presentation. I like the division of having at least 7 different members. The one question that I had, and I brought it up in the meeting this afternoon, is that I think we need to establish some sort of a term or term limits. And we tossed around the issue of our planning commission applies for their jobs. They get appointed, and it's for a term of about 3 years. It kind of is important that we, every 3 years, look at the people and see if they've been, doing well, if they're gonna continue to do well. And with this list of who we would want, there's 1 or 2 of the qualifications, like if you're the member that has a minor child between the age of 12 and 17, eventually your child could age out of that, and you would no longer be qualified to be on this committee based on that. So at least by having every 3 years where somebody would have to rotate and reapply, if you no longer meet the qualifications, somebody else could apply and get on and that does meet it. And maybe if you meet one of the other qualifications, you could apply for one of the other seats. So I think that that's the one thing that I would offer up as, kind of doing it the way we do the planning commission and having a term limit of about 3 years. And I think we should also consider maybe at some point down the road, once this committee is put in place, do we have the right mix of people with the right kind of combination to, I guess, meet the need of what we actually need to address. And if that's not the case, then we can always change it for the next go-round, so.
Good point.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? There's a difference between a term and a term limit. Are you looking for 3-year terms? Or are you saying that when that person has served 3 years, that they are not eligible then to reapply?
I'm speaking about a term, that
Okay.
every 3 years they would have to reapply. And at that point, I mean, if they're doing a good job, they would be competing against anybody else
I
applying
thought
for
that's
the
what you
same
were
slot.
referring
Yeah.
to, but I just wanted to make sure when they're drafting it that we're talking about
Right.
the right thing. Thank you.
And Ted, as you know, that's exactly the way the Planning Commission and the Airport Authority, you reapply and you can be selected again.
Airport is 5 years. Is
5.
Planning Commission 3?
3.
Yes.
Yep.
Airport Authority is, of course, created by legislation
Yes.
through the General Assembly. Planning Commission created by the council, so it's like,
Okay. Any other comments, Ms. Brown?
No, that was really the only concern.
Ms. Johnson?
Good point.
So there's a lot here that I like and I appreciate the comments. I would say the one thing that kind of stood out to me when I looked at this was the possibility that the youngest that a minor might be represented on here is 12, and as a mom of a 6-year-old, you know, that looks like a little bit of a gaping hole to me. So I would just want to make sure, if this is as it stands, that the people who we have that are qualified are thinking about the whole breadth of, if we have walking represented and biking represented, that hopefully it is someone that is considering all age ranges when, people using the paths.
The person in number 6 is a person with a minor child of any age.
I thought it said 12.
No, that was,
Which one was
it
the?
refers to seats 5 and 6. Voting members shall be residents of Peachtree City and at least one who shall be a parent or guardian of a teenage driver between the ages of 12 and 17, and at least
Oh, yeah.
one who shall be a parent or guardian of a minor of any age, which should,
That, when I had this question, the person that represents a teenage driver could possibly also be the representative of that minor. So I was just saying, that could possibly still leave a hole there. So I just wanted to make sure that we're also considering our little kids who are using the paths.
I think that might be part of the application process, then
I
take
would
that
hope so.
into consideration. Are you cool with that?
Yes, I am. I just wanted to put it out there as a thought when we're considering people.
That's right.
should we put something in that they're a parent of somebody under the age of 12?
I think we're getting into a lot of
And that's kinda
restrictions
detailed,
here that
yeah.
I think we're gonna trip over our own feet on these.
I'm fine with as it is. I just am planting some seeds here that we consider these things when we're looking
I
at
think
our.
that's a good point, well taken. Mr. Holland, anything?
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, I'm glad we finally did it. We've been talking about this for quite a while. We've got other ones coming, more advisory groups coming on different things, but those will be coming down the road. This is the first one, and we've been waiting a long time. I love the idea that this is an application process, just like you're applying for a job. You've got to have the qualifications, you know, whether it's a little bit on bicycling or walking or running or, you know, whatever background. You need to come in there. You can't just come in and say, I play croquet in the backyard and I want to be on the transportation group. No, you're going to be vetted, and the mayor will probably be on that, that vetting group. You'll make sure that we put in the right type of people that are going to give us good advice, because that advice is going to make a decision, or it's going to help us make decisions on transportation in this city. So we've got to have the right people. So if you're interested, apply for this. You're not going to be, people are not going to come and say, oh, would you be on our committee? No, this is something where it's the other way around. You want to be on this committee. So I commend the city manager, interim city manager, on a job well done. He put it together, in my mind, just like you would in business. Apply for the job, and if you're qualified, you're going to get it. If not, you'll pass on to somebody else. That's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Do you have what you need now? I think we'd like to see 3-year terms. And with that in mind, it's possible that some of our initial members would have a shorter term as you
Yes.
get over that hump.
Yes, we'd be looking at staggering terms.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. All right, we'll have something before long that we can we can look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Council staff topics B, on June 6th, this Thursday evening, usually under normal circumstances, we would have a city council meeting at 6:30, but there will be none. We're having it right now. Any council staff topics? Mr. Holland?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus. You may or may not know that organization. It is a fraternal organization here. Actually, it's all over the world. There's 14,000 councils of that organization around the world with about 1.8 million members, in which the United States, in Georgia, we have 16,000 members of the Knights of Columbus. And it is built upon charity, fraternity, and patriotism and unity. Those are the 4 pillars that we build this Knights of Columbus on. And we are very fortunate that after 182 years in existence, Peachtree City has the first known Knight of the Year for the state of Georgia for 2024, my friend Frank DiStadio. There are quite a few people out there that voted for him. It was by a nice committee at the state level, and it was a unanimous decision. Thank you.
Thanks very, very much, Frank, for all your service. Amazing. It's an amazing honor. Thank you. You want to
Just
say?
don't put up the picture.
You want to say a few words?
Speech?
Don't
Yeah,
put up the
speech.
picture. I'm just very pleased that the council recommended me. Not something I sought out, but it happened. My wife would tell you that I spend too much time away from the house, but I guess in this case it paid off. But nevertheless, thank you very much. I don't need to see any more pictures.
All right. Council, any other council staff topics?
I do. I have something. I have 2 things, actually. First, I want to talk about Flag Day. It's why I have my shirt on tonight. Flag Day is on June 14th, which is just around the corner. In 1916, Woodrow Wilson designated Flag Day. In 1936, an act of Congress made it an official holiday, an official day, not an official holiday. It is a time to display your American flag. It's a time to have parades, and I'd like to encourage everyone to go ahead and display your flag for Flag Day. And if you need to get rid of your old flag and put up a nice, clean, shiny new one, there are ways to dispose of it through the American Legion.
American Legion,
Yeah.
see, Frank or I were both on members of that, and we'll properly dispose of your flags.
So,
You can do that right outside the town
The
hall, the
flagpole.
city hall.
yeah, I gotta tell you this, don't put your absentee ballots in that box. That's not where they go. And that's where some have been found. But anyway, the other thing I have is, in 2022, the Elections Department controlled and conducted our municipal special election. They projected a cost that it would only be $80,000 for the election. When the invoice came in, it was $133,000. After it was readjusted, it went down to just $93,000. That's still a lot of money to pay for an election. That was in 2022, the special election when Clint Holland got elected. Cities all over Georgia are opting to run their own elections. Many are ditching the voting machines and choosing to hand count paper ballots, primarily because it's cheaper without the electronic voting equipment. And I feel that we need to conduct a financial feasibility study. It can be a joint council and citizen committee to examine the cost involved in conducting our own elections. Municipalities do have the right to determine many things with regard to their own elections, such as how many polling locations they use, how many days of early voting, the hours that the polls are open, how much to pay the workers, and whether to use paper ballots. There's no requirement to have any early voting outside of Peachtree City. So we have quite a few options, and this has been brought up before, and Peachtree City can choose to do all the voting at the Peachtree City Library in one centralized location, because we would have that authority. The only way that we're gonna have that authority is if we actually take control and run our own elections. An analysis of what we could do and should do, and then an analysis of the cost is necessary before we decide which way to go with running our own elections. Milton considered several other issues in their feasibility study before they switched to decide to control their own municipal elections. They looked at things like time savings, cost savings, and then the citizen satisfaction with security and transparency. So what I'd like to do is work up a more detailed list of options to present at the meeting on July 11th, and therefore I'd like to make a motion to add the topic, conducting our own municipal elections, and a discussion and determination of possibly doing a financial feasibility study to determine if it would be a financial advantage to the Peachtree City citizens to conduct our own municipal elections. And I'd like to add that to the nope, I have the wrong date in there, sorry. I'd like to add it to the June 20th City Council meeting.
Does that require a second?
Remember, we talked about this
Yes.
at the yes, it does, a second and a vote, so that we're clear
Okay.
as to what the issue is and whether it will be on the agenda.
Okay, I'm going to second it for a reason of discussing that.
Discussion, council?
Frank, do you want to say anything?
If you remember, Madam Mayor, I brought this up a year ago, maybe, about doing a feasibility study, and that we voted that we would look at doing a feasibility study. That never really panned out that well, but we started to get down the road to get the feasibility study done by talking to the city of Milton, the people that did that, and that was kind of placed on me to try to get that done. Unfortunately, we never got through the first part of that, the feasibility study background. So that's in line with what we were going to do, which was do a feasibility study first and see if it's worthwhile financially for the city. So it's in line with that.
I can agree with Councilman DiStadio. I was on the council at that time. It was just about a year ago. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that Councilman Prebor and King were also saying, yes, they need to do it, but by the end of the year, basically, they said, they looked at Frank and I and the mayor, and it's on you guys to take it from here, because they were coming off the council. At least that's my memory of what went on when we talked about it back then.
So it may not be realistic to imagine that our staff has time to tackle this in time for our next city council meeting, but we do have a retreat coming up next month in which we will be doing exactly that, stacking up how we prioritize a myriad of projects and priorities. We'll all be discussing it together, and I would suggest that this is one more thing to put on the list so that we can all discuss, slice and dice, and figure out where the priorities are. Our staff time is not unlimited, and we have loaded our city manager down, and we will be discussing what his priorities should be in that retreat in July. That would be my suggestion for moving forward. Ms. Johnson, anything?
I think that's a good suggestion. I know that this is something that's definitely been important to Councilwoman Brown. It's an area I don't have a whole lot of information about. My question would be, I would definitely want to see the reasoning behind this, as far as the money we save doing our own elections versus the cost that it's going to cost it to do a feasibility study, and is it worth it to do that feasibility study? So I think it's something that I would probably appreciate. What our retreat is, what?
The 30th and 31st of July.
So it's next month? Yeah, I think it's a possibility of something that, we can look into. I think the retreat would be a good time to do that, when we can discuss things further and hopefully have a little bit more information.
Having a good discussion about it would allow us to understand together, what does a feasibility study mean? Does that mean we hire someone to come in and examine all aspects? Does that mean that we take a cursory look at Milton, what does that even mean? I
Right,
think
is it
that
gonna
would-
be done by a third party, maybe, something like that?
I don't know.
Exactly at this
I didn't-
point.
I didn't
I
know.
like the idea of a feasibility study to find out whether we can handle our own election. That was what was discussed last year, but I don't know the cost. I don't know what the cost will be. We really don't have a good handle on that, and I think that's something that's gonna have to come out of that feasibility study.
Would you agree that that could be one of our, items when we're talking about prioritization of staff time in our retreat? I mean, to be fair.
I'd like to bring up the fact that I don't know whether the timing allows us to delay too much if we want to do this and get everything done. And I think that there are ways that Milton did theirs. They had a lot of cooperation with some of the citizens. I think we would be able to get that kind of cooperation to do an initial study. And then I don't know that it's necessary to have a third party do a full study.
That, I probably will agree with you on that, but I think this is something we need to take into account when we discuss it in our retreat. With this and an annexation study and all the priorities that we've brought up, dredging Lake Peachtree and whatever else we've, splash pad and all the priorities that each and every one of us has to concatenate, to put together and with a spirit of give and take, decide what it is we want to prioritize for staff to work on. I will tell you, I don't think it's fair to request our staff to come up with something by June 20th. I know how busy they are, and now we have interns and some 4th of July parade and quite a few other things, and I think we need to take a measured and unified look at this together at our retreat.
Well, I would like to at least present more information at the next city council meeting and then make a determination whether or not.
You could certainly do that in council staff topics in our next meeting.
There's,
I don't know enough about this tonight to make any kind of an evaluation. Milton came up.
Yeah, but this is not approving,
Right.
it's not approving the study. It's allowing me to do a full presentation at a point where we could actually make a decision.
It's just adding it to the agenda, is that all we're doing?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Or is it something that, I guess what I'm asking, is there a time limit on this? And I don't really know enough about it, but I do know the next municipal election is the end of '25. Is there enough time to do this? Because I know that the county has to get involved where they're going to cover, if they're going to handle the election for us. And is there enough time for us to do it? And I don't know the answer. I'm just throwing it out as a question to this council.
I think by the end of the year.
Well, I think the IGA comes around in the beginning of 2025.
I was gonna ask, when do we usually sign the IGA?
We get the IGA normally first quarter of the year, that the
So
election
that's
is
when
going
we
to
get,
be
so
held.
we basically
So-
got 6 months or so. If we wait
I'd say-
till August, we've got 5
I'd
months.
say by the end of the year.
Is 5 months enough time for us to do the work we need and to look at this, to come up with an answer? If we decide to do it for 2025, we have to get it in before the IGA comes in January of 2025.
That sounds
Correct.
very
I think so.
reasonable, what you just
I
described.
know, but I'm just saying, that's 5
know, but
months. I
there's-
don't know if
If we're
5
gonna
months is
run our,
enough time.
if we're gonna run our own municipal elections, there are, and we have to have our own superintendent of elections, and that's not necessarily, although some cities it is, the city clerk, but it does not have to be the city clerk. And in this case, I would say that would not be the right choice, because the city clerk is already over busy. But-
You are?
Yeah, but in order to get things done and to make sure that we have somebody who would meet the qualifications, I think the sooner we start this, the better off we're gonna be.
You know, is there a compromise here that instead of trying to jam it in on the 20th, Councilman Brown, could we move it to the July meeting? So that at least we get it done, get a start on it before we go to our retreat, and then we'll have more in-depth discussion. To put it on the agenda for that month instead of on the 20th. Because I don't want to.
And then what goes on the agenda, Mr. Holland, in your scenario?
It would be a discussion on just like would be a new
What-
agenda item.
No,
Councilwoman Brown, what was your motion? What was the exact motion?
The motion I said was conducting, to add the topic, conducting our own municipal elections and a discussion and determination of possibly doing a financial feasibility study to determine if it would be a financial advantage to the Peachtree City citizens to conduct our own municipal elections.
And you had a time frame on there of June 20th.
Well, I was thinking about doing a presentation in the next council, which would be June 20th.
I just want to have clarification. Are you saying to have a new agenda item or a presentation?
Be a
Because
new
we just
agenda.
need.
It would be a new agenda.
I think
Right.
it'd be consideration of, the way I listen to what you just said now, it'd be consideration of whether to conduct a feasibility study.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be a
Just to
motion.
talk more in detail than obviously throwing it out here tonight.
Right, and we don't have to make a decision on the 20th or even on, is it the 11th of July, our next meeting? We don't have to make a decision then. We can at least have the discussion, get it started,
You could continue
do it transparently to the whole city, so everybody out there knows what we're doing. And then we can still go to our meeting on the end of July, and we can hammer it out at our retreat. How's that sound as a
Well-
compromise for that?
So
I don't know if I'm making that as a motion,
We'll just-
Counselor, but
There's a
No,
motion
no,
on
already
the,
on the
there's
floor.
a
no,
motion
it
on
would
the
have to be
table
an
right
amendment
now.
to the motion.
Hold on.
Thinking this through in my head, if we're running the election next fall, like, let's just say, we take it over next fall,
25?
we have to decide whether we're gonna do the IGA with the county or not by the beginning of next year. If we're thinking a study, and this, from a staff perspective, a study does take time. And also, if it's something council wants to do, then we have to figure out where the money's, how we're gonna fund it. So there's some decisions to be, I mean, August does delay it a good bit, but a lot of it's gonna be you.
August delays it, that's a good thing, or August delays it, that's a bad thing that leaves us
Yeah.
jammed up?
Yeah, jammed
My-
up,
That's
right.
my question.
We would just need clarification.
Yeah,
I
I don't-
understand that.
If it's something we are seriously looking to look at, then a shorter timeline it could potentially put us in a bind.
Yeah. And I was just trying to get clarification if it was something that you would want staff to look into, to gather the information, to do a presentation as we do. I just need to know what all information you all are looking for.
Well,
That's the discussion we would have next time around.
Correct.
I think if you did approve this to move it to the 20th or July 11th, the groundwork we would at least do is to find out how much a third party would cost.
Okay.
We would at least do that.
It sounds like Councilman Brown is up for the challenge. Did I hear that right, Councilman Brown?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. So hopefully she can be
Let's
of
not forget-
assistance.
Let's not forget that the city council already agreed to do a preliminary study.
Yeah, you're correct.
And
So,
in the last discussion, it was tossed around about July, so I'm just
True.
right in time.
my point is, we've got Margaret Ross, we've got the individual from the city council in Milton that have done it.
I've actually had conversations with Milton, and the difference between Milton was that they actually, their pricing from the city of, from Fulton County had tripled. We have not realized any of those increases in Fayette County. So what the savings that Milton had, Peachtree City would not have seen those same savings, because we don't pay as much as what they paid. So pretty much for our election and our runoff, we paid less than what Milton paid for just their election. This new one that they ran themselves, and that didn't include equipment. So I have had conversations with Milton following their actual election. But I believe from conversations with Councilwoman Brown, she's talking about reducing the number of election polling locations, which would potentially reduce cost. Right now, we share costs with the other cities. So if for every polling location we do have open, we split the cost with the county and every other city that has elections. But we wouldn't have those savings unless we had a smaller number of locations. We do have more voters that actually vote in Peachtree City, 3 times more voters than Milton does. So their reduction in polling locations may not be something that we can carry forward here, but we can look at reducing locations and potentially looking at less number of days election voting days. So for example, we had 17 days in the general election. There were 2 Saturday voting days, and then 5 days for the runoff with no Saturday voting. Those days are voted on by the County Board of Elections, and it's a group. We have to come to a consensus as all the cities that are in the election. So if it was the city doing the elections, I'm not familiar enough with the election laws to determine if we can shorten those days, but I know we can minimize the number of polling locations. We still have to meet other state laws that, but other than that, I mean, if that's what we're looking at, potentially looking at less locations, we could realize a savings potentially, but I can't for certain say that.
Which is why
until
we
do
need a
it.
feasibility study.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, but I would recommend an outside agency, a neutral party doing the actual, it's difficult having citizens research the information, and that was actually what happened with Milton. But the information they found out was that what they thought they were gonna save, they actually did not save. That study was done by residents in their city as well.
Counselor, got a question for you. Is it appropriate to make an amendment to that motion, or is that something that's out of order?
I think if we're going to change something, then somebody should withdraw their second and then withdraw the motion and make a new motion. That's the cleanest way to do it.
Okay, I'm going to withdraw my second.
And the reason?
Is I'd like to change the date from the 20th to July 11th for the discussion.
Justin, can I get a reality check from you on staff availability to get started on this?
We could do that. July, the July date is because we have another budget workshop 2 weeks from today. So I'm still gonna be in budget mode over the next 2 weeks. So, I mean, July 11th, I think July is better than August as far as starting it, if that's what council ends up deciding. And it also gets staff, it gets us kind of past budget season. So I think that is a happy medium there.
Okay. Ms. Brown, you wanna?
I'll withdraw my motion and re-enter the same motion, but with the amended date of July 11th.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. And to be clear, what does it mean that we're asking staff to bring us by July 11th?
I think we're gonna contact different companies that specialize in elections and reviewing and recommendations and
Understand
a company
cost?
that cost of running a feasibility study.
Yes.
Like real costs. We're gonna get you actual quotes.
And I'll try to see if I can pull some numbers together of what cities pay that typically run their own elections.
Good.
We would want to include all encompassing, Milton, the first thing Milton did was reduce their number of polling places. If it comes to those types of factors, that's a bigger conversation than cost.
Well, and those are all discussions you're gonna have once you get your feasibility study and your numbers in, and then you decide, A, are you gonna do your own election, and B, what that's going to look like.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I have a motion that is now revised. Did I get a second?
I'll second it
I have
for
a
the
motion
second
and
time.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else? Ms. Brown?
No, I'm sorry.
Executive session?
No.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Don't go. We're gonna do
gonna do-
budget.
Now we got a lot
Stick
more to talk about.
around.
Come on.
Come back. Budget!
Are you staying?
Maybe that now. Maybe next time.
Oh, man.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The phone, give me one
Okay.
more second. and
Sure,
I will
sure.
be-
Job to order. Justin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We'll try to get you guys out of here by midnight.
Nobody laughed.
There is no one here.
I'm talking to staff. We're gonna keep them here till midnight.
We'll just do our retreat now.
Yeah. So we're kicking off the budget staff-wise, we've already had it kicked off for a little bit, but we're kicking off budget season with council tonight officially. We had our fee schedule workshop, which was kind of the soft opening. We went over that. I thought that went really well. Tonight will be our first workshop on the fiscal year 25 budget. I do want to remind everyone that we're not actually presenting the budget tonight. The budget will actually be presented at the next meeting in 2 weeks on June 18th. So we're not going to talk specifics about the budget itself tonight.
June 20th, isn't it?
The workshop's on the 18th.
Oh, the 18th is the workshop, that's right.
So we're not going to talk specifics about the actual budget tonight. We'll get into that 2 weeks from now in that presentation and discussion. So tonight what we're going to talk about is some trends we've been reviewing nationally over the past year. We're going to look at some local trends. We're going to look at some things we've done as a city over the past year. And we'll talk, there'll be a couple of things that we're looking to probably present into the budget in 2 weeks that we'll mention, but we're not going to get too heavy into specifics during this actual presentation. So with that, just want to show this slide. You guys see this a good bit purposefully. Last year at our retreat, council and staff agreed on a new vision for the city of uncompromised excellence. Staff-wise, I know that it has been very productive. It's been a good vision on the decisions we make as a city, the employees we have, our operations day to day. Using those two words, everybody knows what they are now. And I think it's trickling down to our citizens as well, that the word's getting out about what our vision as a city is, and I think it does represent our city very well. At that same retreat, we adopted these 6 values that spell PASS with 2 S's. Those values for us kind of define how we get to that uncompromised excellence. And I'll mention this a little later in the presentation, I believe, but if I forget to, I'm going to mention it now. We actually have started a new employee evaluation program this year that actually takes these 6 values into account as we evaluate our employees. That's kind of the general 6 values that we evaluate everyone on in our organization now. All right, moving on. The next thing we did at the retreat this year, council and staff decided to adopt strategic pillars, and we adopted 5 of them that we all came to agreement on, the wording and the goals. These are kind of the goals, the overarching goals that we want to have in our city, that we want to see. The things that we do as a city need to feed into these 5 pillars. They are a safe, family-friendly community, an active, healthy community, an attractive community, a thriving, resilient business community, and a city organization that is innovative, high-performing, and sustainable. I'm bringing that up because moving forward, my idea is, and I believe we all share this, is whatever we decide to do as a city operationally, capital-wise, or strategically, should feed back into one, if not multiple, of these pillars. And all of this should feed back into that uncompromised excellence and the values we have as a city. It should all synchronize together into a, what? into a cohesive vision. All right, next one we have, that we actually showed this slide at the fee schedule workshop, but we want to show it again, especially as we're talking about budget. What is our budget policy? The big thing that I want to point out is the baseline and service level funding. Any deviation from the baseline on any new item that comes into the budget, especially an ongoing item, has to have an ongoing revenue source identified to fund that item. That's kind of the basis of budgeting. That's what you would do at your home, and it's also what we're mandated to do as a city, is we have to have a balanced budget. Anything we're funding operationally has to have some kind of revenue to fund it. And then the big thing too is the 4 M's: manpower, money, machines, and materials. Everything we do as a city costs one of these things, if not multiple of these things. So everything we do feeds back into costing something, as one of our residents said in the meeting earlier. Everything costs something. All right, moving on from our policies and vision and all that stuff, we want to dive into market trends, stuff that we're seeing nationally, and then stuff that we've been tracking within our organization. So last year we showed what national inflation was. It was 4.9%. It was 7.7% for food. This year the inflation growth has slowed. It's still increasing. Like, inflation is still increasing, 3.4%. Slower increase than last year, but it's still an increase. So that basically translates to something that costs $1 today would have cost 97 cents last year. Not a huge amount, but as we get into the further into this presentation, we're going to see some slides from the past 5-6 years to a decade where inflation has gone up significantly. In talking about that, so this slide here is the Consumer Price Index since the year 2004. Anything, let me switch it, hold it down to switch, right? Tap, tap. Okay, there we go. Anything above this gray line with the 0, 0 is an increase, is basically inflation. Anything below the gray line, which is only here, is actually a decrease in cost of goods and services. So the only time we've actually seen a decrease is during the Great Recession, which is this gray bar here. You see, after the Great Recession, the inflation rate stabilizes to 2.5, 3-ish%, a little below 2% during the mid 2010s. This thin gray line here is COVID, and that's why we've circled this, is because this is the trend we've seen since COVID. When COVID hit, the inflation rate did decrease to almost 0, but very quickly it recovered and has skyrocketed more than we've seen over the past 2 decades, close to 10% in 2022, and is now starting to stabilize again back to what we've seen pre-COVID. However, that is still an increase in inflation. Anything above this gray line is an increase. Costs are still going up, even though this line is coming down. So to kind of represent that, this chart is actually the same chart as the previous chart, but instead of showing the inflation rate, it's showing the cost of goods and how they have risen. So you'll see here, just to orient you, this is the Great Recession again, where costs actually did go down, the only time they went down on this chart. Then this is that steady inflation rate of 2.5, under 2% here. You see it kind of slowing here. And then this is COVID. COVID hits, and you see this line start to rise very, very steeply. And so this is that 3.4%, which, as you can see, even though it's a slower inflation rate than maybe these steep lines here, it's still a little more than here, because basically when you start compounding 8%, 10% inflation, and then you add 3.4% to that on top of what you've seen over the previous years, it's going to be a higher amount. So that, what does that translate to is 22% increase in cost just since COVID, which is a significant amount. It's a significant amount for an individual, and it's a significant amount for an organization, for a private company, or for a local government like us. It's something, and I just want to point out, something that cost $255 in 2019 would cost $313 today. And so basically, $1 today has the same buying power as 80. So like we said, 97 cents last year. Just 4 years ago, $1 today would have had the same buying power as 82 cents in 2020. So the gist of this is money, no matter whether it's your money, Peachtree City as an organization's money, the federal government's money, does not buy what it used to buy. All right, moving on to housing market data. As of April 2024, home prices in Peachtree City have increased 8.6%. So we're still seeing a strong housing market, especially locally here in Peachtree City. But even nationwide, the increase in sales is 3% in 1 month. And just since last year, over a 12-month period, the increase in sales nationwide is 6.1%. So houses are still selling, and in Peachtree City, the prices are still rising for houses that are selling. Very much still a seller's market. This score here of 76 means that we are a very competitive area, and I looked at the numbers from the same website. A house that lists in Peachtree City will be under contract on average less than 3 weeks. So it's still a very hot market as far as people selling and purchasing houses, and those price changing and going up. But just as a reminder, as we move into assessments and millage talks and budget, the current assessments for Fayette County are values as of January 1. So changes you're seeing with home prices and stuff since January are not going to be considered. What they're considering for evaluation and for assessments with properties will be, as you know, any growth that happened over last year, over 2023. Values will be of January 1, 2024. All right, the big thing I really want to talk about for this presentation is labor, because we are a service organization. Most of the things we do as a city rely on us having people. They rely on us having police officers and patrolling, doing investigations. They rely on us having firefighters, EMS workers going out to calls, public works guys paving and maintaining our paths and our streets, facilities maintenance people, recreation people working events, working to keep our parks maintained. So most of what we do requires labor. We're not producing goods. We don't produce goods as an organization. We provide services to our citizens. So looking at the national trend, we went back to 2009 and looked at how full-time, specifically full-time workers in the United States, how their median annual earnings have changed since 2009. Just from 2020, so this is similar to the CPI chart we're showing, because it's a trend beyond just how much stuff costs. It also wages have seen the same trend. Just since COVID, since 2019, wages have gone up 23%. You see that steep incline start to happen here. And that 23% growth in median wages is more than the previous 10 years combined, which is that 20%. So just from 2020 to 2024, wages have gone from about 50,000 to about 60,000. And that's a 5-year period. And in that same timeline 10 years ago, they went from 38 to 46. So about 12,000 growth over 10 years, and then just 10,000 in 4 years or 5 years. So how does that look if we dive down, drill down into Peachtree City itself? I did it a little different because I wanted you to see what we actually spend in Peachtree City, where tax money actually goes. We have 3 big spending categories. They're called categories in UCO, right? Categories. Categories in Peachtree City. The blue line here is personnel. Orange is services, which is you know, if we, pest control or inspections that we do, contracted out engineering work, stuff like that. And then supplies, which is our hard supplies we have to operate. You'll see by far our operating costs rely on personnel. Over the past 5 years, well, this is 6 years, but over the past 6 years, our services and supplies have remained relatively steady as far as the cost. And going back to look at the inflation rate, you know, staff-wise, we buckle down. I mean, we'll work with less supplies if we have to, but we also are very competitive. We have a very good purchasing manager who competitively bids out a lot of the things we do. And so we've been able to hold pretty steady with our supply and service costs over the past 5 years.
Does that take into effect the cost of goods going up? Because it looks like it's a flat line, the green line, over a 5-year period, and it's got to be a cost of increase of pencils and paper and everything else. Why are we not seeing that? The green line, the bottom one, the supplies.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see the number.
Yeah, you're not seeing really
Well,
much of an increase.
We have seen it. Like if you look at fiscal year 2022, you've got 2.7 million. Now we're up to 3.7. So like our supplies have gone up around $1 million.
The chart doesn't kind of show that.
So you've seen
That's
it?
the problem. I see the numbers, but the chart doesn't show
And
that.
the reason is because personnel takes so much of that cost up.
Okay.
And pointing it out, if you remember a previous slide with the national averages of this looks very similar. So the trends we're seeing at an organization level are echoing what we see at a national level. Just to highlight some things we've done in these years to explain why this has increased. From 2022 to 2023, this line here, we did a 7% COLA. This is when we started to realize that inflation was going way up and that a lot of other people around us were adjusting their salaries. So we decided to do a 7% COLA between these 2 years. And then from 2023 to 2024, this was the major pay plan that we did last year, where we adjusted over 200 people in our organization. We adjusted their salaries and starting pay, adjusted our whole scale. And that has allowed us to hire more people. This actually is cost. This isn't budgeted cost. This is actual spending. So, well, 2024 is budgeted, but these are actuals. And so what doing the pay plan beyond just increasing pay has allowed us to do is we've actually been filling positions that were vacant.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the real reasons it was done.
Correct. Yeah, so that's what, I have notes here, but I'm kind of going, since I've done this 3 times, you know, we've practiced this, so I'm not going off my notes, but yes, this was a conscious decision, and I think I mentioned this to some of you. This was a conscious decision by council, recommended by staff, that we feel has had a major impact on our organization, and we are grateful for it. Like I've said it over and over, how impactful that pay plan has been, and I'm sure both our chiefs right there will tell you how impactful that pay plan has been for our organization and therefore our citizens. So it's been of great benefit, but it does cost. And I think council was willing conscientiously to have that cost, and we've been able to move forward with it, which has been great. What you see here too, between that COLA and the pay plan and what we've done, personnel made up about 66% of our spending, of our expenses in 2019. Now, since we have done some of these things, and since these have not increased, supplies and services have not increased as much as personnel, the personnel part of that pie has grown more to 73% now. Close to 3/4 of our expenses are for personnel. And this does include, it's not just salaries, this does include healthcare, and includes our defined benefit, stuff we paid for Medicare and Social Security. So it does include all personnel expenses we have, not just salaries. So if we look at just this proposed fiscal year 2025 column here, I'm going to do a pie chart of just that fiscal year 25 dots you saw, just to show the picture of it a little more of how big a chunk personnel is of our cost to operate at 38 million or 73% versus the 10 million, 20% of services and the 3.77% of supplies. Then, if we look at just this blue Pac-Man, if we look at just this, we're going to drill down even further into what is that chunk actually made of, and how does that disperse itself in our departments. You'll see that police and fire, blue and red respectively, are our biggest chunks for personnel costs. They make up 60% of our personnel costs for the city. So just public safety is over half, between half and 2/3 of what we fund for personnel with the city. And then if you add public works and recreation, what we like to call the big four, if you add those in, then you're up to 80% of what we spend on personnel in the city. And then if you add the library, planning, and municipal court, if you add in the departments that are public facing, that are public services directly to citizens, then we're at 87%. So 87% of our personnel costs are directly interacting, doing services to provide for our community. And then the final 13% are those support departments like IT, HR, finance, building maintenance, public communications.
City council.
City council. Yeah, we could add in city council to the public services as well, though, couldn't we? But yeah, mayor and council up here with their 91,000. But just 0%. You round down, round down to 0%. I just want to. I'll move on from there. But I just wanted to break that down. I wanted to really drill down into, since we are a personnel-focused organization, what really goes into that from the department level. So moving on from personnel, one thing over the past 2 years that has increased significantly and is increasing again this year is technology costs. Two big factors that drive up costs with technology and IT, the software environment. A lot of software in today's age is moving to SaaS, yeah, software as a, yeah, I don't know, SaaS, but it's basically subscription based. 10 years ago, you buy a piece of software, it was yours, you keep it forever if you wanted it. Now everything, Microsoft, Adobe, all the big pieces of software we use, and even the bigger pieces of software we use, our enterprise resource planning software, BSNA, which is kind of our brain of the city, is moving to cloud-based software. And that costs money to move it, and it's going to cost money to have it, to keep the subscription. Same thing with police software and cameras. Our agreement for our police software and cameras is expiring. Police did a great job of going out and getting 5-6 quotes to look at on these, and I think they've made a good decision with where they want to go for their police software and cameras moving forward. But just like other software, it's moving to the cloud. It's moving to cloud-based subscriptions. And then the other is cybercrime, and I know Councilman Holland, you're big on cybercrime.
Yes.
I think I mentioned to you all, but if you've seen recently, Macon got hit by a ransomware attack about 2-3 weeks ago and shut down their city. So we take that very seriously. We add layers to our security. I'm not going to get into too many details, but we add layers to our security every year. We're constantly poking and prodding around to make sure that nothing happens to our system. And so it does cost money. So this year we're looking at a 26.5% increase to our IT costs. We saw a significant increase last year as well. My biggest thing is sustainability wise, we can't see this every year, but while we are converting some things and really looking at our infrastructure and all that, this kind of is what it is this year, but I also am very aware of this can't be sustainable every year moving forward. So we're very aware of that.
And if you don't have it and something happens.
Correct. That's the
the bottom line. You're looking at this. If you don't have it, we're all going to be saying, why didn't we have spend those extra thousands of dollars? Now it's going to cost us millions of dollars to get everything back online. So I don't like it, but it's one of those issues that you've got to deal with, is the cost of cybercrime.
So, yeah, could be, I mean, good point, and that's the tightrope I think I had said to you too, is with a lot of things we do as a city, there's a very fine tightrope of the level of services that we need to be able to provide, and then reconciling that with the cost, and making sure we're very cognizant of both. All right, moving on to public safety funding. I want to try to explain this slide the best I can. So the benchmark that is commonly used and has been kept by the city, by us at Peachtree City for 20 years, is the idea of your most solid, stable, controllable revenue source, which is our ad valorem taxes, and comparing that to our most critical operational expense, which is public safety, fire and police. The slides that we're about to go through, we're going to show some hypotheticals. We're going to show the history. We're going to show the history of public safety expenses versus what we've brought in with ad valorem taxes. And what we use that as is just a metric to gauge if our most critical, if we had to keep operating our most critical expenses and we didn't have any other revenue source, where's the gap there in the funding? What we're about to show you is not anything that is any kind of deficiency that we have as a city, but we're just looking at this as kind of a metric. So, moving to this. This shows the past 10 years of public safety expenses versus property tax revenue. You see back coming out of the recession that, oh, and I'll say the green line is property tax revenue, the red line is public safety expenses. Coming out of the recession, they were uneven. Our public safety expenses were a little higher than our they both start with P, property tax revenue. In 2017, they became balanced, and they stayed that way for 5 years. And in 2022, council did decide to do a full millage rollback. And since that, that is when they kind of came apart, is what I'll say. Yeah, they diverged. And property tax revenue has been a little lower than our public safety expenses in the years since then. And if we kept a stable millage rate this year for fiscal year 25, that gap would still be diverged. And we'll see in the future slides coming up, depending on what we do with the millage, how that would look with this metric. So looking at a stable millage rate, we'd be looking at bringing in around 25 million in ad valorem taxes. Our public safety expenses are going up to 28.5 million. This year, the difference is about 3 million. So our percent coverage is around 89%. And you can see in these previous years where it was up close to 100. And this yellow here was that full rollback where it dropped from close to 100 down to 93.5. So hypothetically, if we rolled the millage or did a millage reduction of 0.044, which gets us under 6, takes us to 5.99, you see that it's not that big of a difference on the graph itself. And then looking at the numbers here, you'll see that this drops from about 25.3 to about 25.1. Takes the percent coverage down closer to 88 instead of 88.5. And you see the millage is 5.99 here. This would save a homeowner approximately 8.96 per year, which is $9. You know, go to Starbucks and get you a cup of coffee for that savings. And it would cost the city approximately $171,000 for a 0.044 millage reduction. So what if we did it by 0.1 mil? So you see the dot starts to drop a little bit. You can see it better on paper, but you see the dot drops a little bit and it starts to go below that 25 million line. And this is just a hypothetical, really to give you an idea of what 0.1 mil cost with what we've calculated so far this year. That gets our revenue below 25 million. It drops down to 24.85. The gap climbs to 3.5 million, and the percent coverage drops to 87.5. It'll save a property owner $20.35, and it would cost the city $389,000. So 0.1 mil right now for us as a city is worth about $389,000. All right, and I haven't said this, but I'll say it on this slide. This is, and we're talking about millage right now. The digest from the county has not come out. They have not finished it yet. So we actually do not know what the rollback rate will be yet. But based on our talks with them, we think it's going to be somewhere close to this number. So 0.299 mil reduction is what we're estimating would be close to a full rollback this year. And you can see that our revenue is almost flat there, and it's well below the 25 million line at this point. That drops our collections down right at 24 million. The difference goes to 4.3 million deficit with public safety funding, and drops us below 85% coverage. And that is a millage rate of 5.744. It would save the homeowner approximately $60.85 per year, and it would cost the city $1.16 million for a full rollback, what we're estimating. So just as a hypothetical, and again, this is a gauge, and these are hypothetical scenarios we're presenting. Staff is not recommending a millage increase. I'm going to say that into the microphone. But we're just curious, what would it take to actually get our, if we wanted property taxes to cover public safety expenses and be, even again at that 100% marker, what would it take? And we calculated that it would take around a 0.8 millage increase to line these figures back up. But again, the city does have other revenue sources, and we are not recommending a millage increase. We just wanted to show this. And I'm going to pass the presentation over to Jasmine.
All right, good evening again, Mayor and Council, those watching on live stream, and everyone here today. So what does it cost to actually live in Peachtree City, and what do you actually get for your money? So we hear a lot from residents or people say, oh, Peachtree City property taxes are so high. So what we're actually doing is we're taking a look at the millage rate, the current millage rate with Peachtree City as well as the other cities. And what we see, it's actually a little bit misleading, and I'll explain the reason why. So Brooks is at 1.207 being the lowest millage for a city in the county. We have Tyrone next at 2.889, and then we have Fayetteville at 5.646. Now Peachtree City does look to be the highest when you're looking at the municipal M&O millage rate of 6.043. But I do want you to remember those numbers, how Tyrone and Fayetteville and Brooks come out to be so much lower than Peachtree City when you're looking at the municipal millage rate. Because when we put the municipal millage rate and the county total millage rate together, now in these numbers we don't include the Board of Education, but what we're doing is we're actually looking to see the total millage rate that's being paid by homeowners in the county without the Board of Education being added. We actually see that Tyrone and Fayetteville's millage rate actually exceed Peachtree City's millage rate. And the reason why is because if you see here these red bars, these are the county fire districts. These are the rates that are charged for fire, county fire. And we see it in Tyrone, we see it in Brooks, and we see it in Fayette County. We don't see it in Fayetteville because their rate is actually included in their blue bar, which is with their millage. The same thing for Peachtree City. Now, we all do share the peach here is the county EMS. So the county, Tyrone does not provide their own EMS service. Fayetteville does not provide their own EMS service. That's why you're seeing that peach bar there. Neither does Brooks or Fayette County, but the city actually does have their EMS services provided within their city millage rate. So that's where the difference comes in. E911 is charged to all of them, but if you actually look here, that's why Tyrone, Fayetteville exceed our millage. So they surpass us when it comes to the millage. And so what does that look like? So I'm gonna break it down just a little bit when you're looking at your property tax bill as a homeowner in Peachtree City. So the average home is about $508,000. Actually, I think it's a little bit more than that now, but we're going to use the value of $508,000. And you would get a tax bill of about $6,173. And these are all just estimates. So 2/3 of your property tax bill, this big chunk of money here, which is 66%, is going to go to the Board of Education. So Peachtree City has no way to change the millage rate for the Board of Education as well as the bond. So that will go directly to the Board of Education, and Peachtree City doesn't see any of that. So that's $4,000 out of that $6,000 that goes directly to the Board of Education. Peachtree City does realize about $1,200 from your property taxes if your property tax was about $6,000. And so that's about less than 20%. And then the rest of that actually goes to the county for their millage and then the E911 services that you're receiving. So again, out of those $6,000, $6,100 that you're paying for property taxes, Peachtree City gets less than $1,300. So now we're going to add in the actual Board of Education to the property taxes just to kind of see what are property homeowners who have a valuation of $508,000, what are they actually paying? And so again, we see here that because Tyrone's city and county millage as well as Fayetteville actually goes up, we see it's added to it. We see that they're actually paying more than what residents are paying within Peachtree City. And then the only two cities, well, the city and the county, any unincorporated areas in the county, which includes Woolsey, are the only ones that are paying less than Peachtree City. So in all, I do want to say that within all the jurisdictions, there's only a difference of about $590. And then between Peachtree City, Tyrone, and Fayetteville, they're all within $85 of each other. But so I'll say this, no matter where you live in Peachtree City, you're pretty much, in the county, you're actually paying just about the same. So what are the services that you receive in Peachtree City compared to some of the surrounding areas? So you're actually getting the ISO 1 fire and premier EMS services. Again, as we said, we have our own fire and EMS services compared to the other cities in the county. We have great parks, we have recreation areas, we have facilities, we have Keep Peachtree City Beautiful, the spring cleanup, the recycling center, the mulching yard. We have the premier public library, which is the second highest circulation in the entire state of Georgia. We have 100+ miles of multi-use path system. We have our neighborhood and median maintenance. We have our CALEA accredited police department. And to say all of that, there's much, much more. And you're still paying, it just costs you $1.38 more per day to live in Peachtree City than it does in unincorporated areas of Fayette County or in Woolsey. Just for all of these services that you're getting in Peachtree City. So we always want to hear from our residents, and we understand that is definitely a concern, but we want to show them the true numbers of what you're paying in your property taxes and what Peachtree City can control versus the services they're actually getting. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll add on to that too, that we have a great HR department. We have a well-protected IT infrastructure. We have a robust facilities and grounds maintenance team. And we have a 35-year in a row award-winning finance department that you're getting as a Peachtree City resident as well, that you don't really see. It's kind of invisible. But we do recognize you when we can. So that's why I wanted to call you out.
Well, also, don't we charge our residents $15 a year for their cart registration? And if you're from outside the city, you're going to be paying $250 for cart registration. That hasn't been figured in here because that will get us very close to the county. It'll almost be equal to what's in the county if you're going to be having a cart coming into the city versus living in Peachtree City. So
narrows that gap, yeah.
What's that, Frank?
If you're caught.
Yeah, well, if you're caught, it may seem going to be more than that because they'll be fined. But
it would narrow that gap.
Yes, it would narrow it even more. And unfortunately for Fayetteville and Tyrone, it would make them more expensive, much more expensive than living in Peachtree City.
That's right.
From a tax basis. Thank
All right.
you, Jasmine.
Yes, great job. So going back to our strategic pillars that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation, the safe, family-friendly community, active, healthy community, attractive community, thriving, resilient business community, and a city organization, innovative, high-performing, and sustainable. There were at last year's, we have 2 new members, but at last year's budget presentation this time last year, our first one, we showed some pictures to council of some good things we've done to start achieving uncompromised excellence and some things we really needed to work on. So this year I wanted to go through some pictures of things we've achieved this year as a city. I wanted to show some before and after pictures from last year and some new pictures of things that we've been proud of over this past year. And using these strategic pillars, we wanted to kind of categorize some of these things we've done as fitting into these pillars. So first up is my labor of love, Jasmine's labor of love, our Navigate PTC app. We're so proud that this app was released this previous year. It took us a while to get all the kinks worked out, to get it working, but it has been awesome. It's still working. Still works. But we're so glad to get this out to citizens. Like when I came in, that was one of the ideas, like one of the things we really wanted to try to get out was not just a city application, but something that was useful for Peachtree City, which ultimately comes down to golf carts. And so there was no app out there that provided turn-by-turn navigation for golf carts. And so we customized this. We worked with a great developer on this that took us through to the finish line. And this is out there, and a lot of people have downloaded it, and we want more people to download it. But we think this adds to our pillar of a safe, family-friendly community.
And it's free.
It is free. So go out there and download it.
It's great too, Justin.
Thank you.
Yep.
We used to use, when Sandy and I got lost, we would have the map
Yep.
that had the streets. I mean, and I got lost every time. But this, I get to where I gotta go.
Good.
Good job, Justin.
Yep.
Jasmine.
And I've even, knowing the past, I've actually, I don't use the app a ton because I know them pretty well. But when I do use it, there's been some times it's taken me ways that I would not have gone normally. So I've discovered some
Interesting.
navigation, some routes that I maybe wouldn't have taken myself.
I didn't even realize that each of those routes that you take and each of the paths that you take have a 4-digit number to them.
Yes.
Please take Route 1536
Yes.
to the left.
So that's
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the way they're set up.
Well, it's an internal moniker that we have as a city that we established and this is before my time, before Jonathan's time, before Dave's time, of labeling the paths. So when we work on them, we know what we're doing. We know this number, so we have numbers associated with them. So we did when we were developing this app, and if you go to OpenStreetMap, which is where the information pulls from. Sorry, I'm getting real nerdy about this. But we actually took those city numbers and made sure all the paths where we're pulling this data from are represented by the city numbers we have as well too. So yeah, it does tell you the actual path number that you're on when you're navigating.
You need to put the Audubon on there.
Just the numbers. Next up we have the stinky. Next up we have public safety. And most of our public safety capital purchases are coming from SPOS, but it's still stuff that we're proud of and proud that council supports this and our citizens support this. But we're able to give state-of-the-art, best-in-class vehicles and equipment to our public safety departments, and this is just one example of that. You've approved some fire engine purchases over the past year. You've approved some police vehicle and equipment purchases. And this is one that fire did receive a few months ago, and we were able to do the washdown ceremony on here at City Hall. So we're just very thankful for the support from council and our citizens for stuff like this. Next up we have, and we've gotten really positive feedback on these, is the LED flashing stop signs that we've started to put out at multiple intersections in the city on our local roads. They've been a hit. I've gotten nothing but positive feedback about these, so this has been a great project that our Public Works staff has taken on and implemented throughout our city, which we think is making our community a more safe and family-friendly community.
Do we have more of those coming?
Do we have more coming, Jonathan? We sure do. I think I've asked for more. So yes, we do have more coming.
Cool.
Next up, this was a picture we showed last year of the Field of Hope, which is our ADA baseball field for Little League. It allows children with disabilities to be able to participate in baseball, which we think is a great service that we provide to our citizens. The surface there is over 20 years old. You saw last year we showed you the pictures where the seams were coming apart. The field was starting to degrade. So council did approve a project to replace this surface. And the project is actually a little more than just the surface. They're actually going all the way down. They're redoing the grade underneath. They're adding a bunch of drainage in there to make sure that it's going to last a long time. The project is not finished yet, but it has begun. So as of a week or two ago, this is what the Field of Hope looks like. And we had to wait until baseball season was over to do it between Little League seasons. So they've started the work now, and they're hoping to be done by August. Yeah, so they're hoping to be done sometime in August so that the fall league can be ready to play on the new field. So great project that we're also grateful for council and our citizens for on that. This is another picture we showed last year of the Flat Creek Boardwalk. We're moving on to the second pillar of active, healthy community. Council did decide that they wanted to get this boardwalk reopened. So we got our tree company to come in and take the trees out that had already fallen and also remove a bunch of trees that we had identified as dangerous, as potentially falling, that we did not want to reopen the boardwalk until those were cleared. So we have accomplished that, and the boardwalk is reopened again. So again, glad we were able to accomplish this. Next one on the left is a picture we showed last year of one of our tot lots where you see that it had started to get compromised underneath here from stormwater and erosion. Our crews have gone back and gravelled this entire section around the playground, and it's a pervious surface, so the rain still comes, it still flows through there, but it does not, it's preventing the erosion now. So this has been a great fix. We also showed other pictures of playgrounds and some equipment that needed work on. I'm not going to go through all of them during this, but that all has been resolved as well. So we're very happy the progress we're making with maintaining our parks. This was the path on the All Children's Playground, by the All Children's Playground that we showed last year. This is it today. This is out at Riley Fields. This is the football building. Yeah, football building. You can see that some of our residents like to throw objects against the building, and we were constantly having to fix it, and then it would be back again. You can see places here from a year ago where it had been repaired, and then they come back and do it again. So we wanted a permanent fix for this instead of just keeping kind of going back and forth with fixing and then having to fix it again. So we decided to build a practice wall on one of the fields, the lower field at Riley here, to give them an actual place to be able to throw balls and bounce them off of. And we did a permanent fix instead of just repairing. We actually did a permanent fix around the whole outside of the building here to where it looks uniform. And so far, knock on wood, how long has it been, like 6 months? Yeah, about 6 months. We haven't had anybody put a crater in the side of the building yet. So knock on wood that people are using that practice wall, and we're keeping the football building looking nice at Riley. Next one we have, around this time last year, we were finishing up the Riley Track project. So if you don't remember, a few years ago, this is what Riley Track looked like. This was the condition, and this is it today. And then this was the grand opening ceremony that we had last summer, which was awesome. And also, it's been a busy year. Also, this past year, we took over direct management of the tennis center. We've done some renovations of the interior of the building, of the main clubhouse building as well, plus actually taking over direct management as a city-operated facility, which, you know, there were a couple kinks going into it, but overall, the transition has been fantastic. We were able to retain a lot of the staff there to come and be city employees, and we're happy with how that transition has gone, and we've heard really good feedback from the patrons there as well. So moving on to attractive community, this was a picture we showed of City Hall last year. You can see the stains, the mildew from rain running down the side of the building. This is a close-up, and then this is City Hall this year. So far we have gone back and sealed and painted the exterior of the building, a lot fresh and cleaner look. We have updated the landscaping out front, which we've mentioned in other council meetings. Still to do is to replace this metal roof here, which is going to be done this summer, hopefully, is a replacement of this roof. And once that roof is replaced, we're going to have a new City Hall sign here as well. Over the past few years, we have been updating our city signage. One of the first ones we did was down at PAC a few years ago when I first started, and that was kind of the template we started using. Was what we did at PAC. We wanted to replicate throughout the city. So this year, this is just an example of what the Fred sign looked like just a few months ago. And in the middle there is what the new Fred sign looks like. We've got their new branding on there. And then for city branding, for our Public Works Department, for City Hall, we've gone to this new standard. The police department has been redone, Kedron, some of our other facilities like Glenlock and Braylon. So this is still continuing. We haven't hit every city facility yet, but we're very proud of how these signs have turned out, and they have a nice look with our logo. And
We had a compliment the other day. Was it from Chip Glazier? Was it Cameron Trail signs?
Well, that was actually, so we also maintain, like Jasmine mentioned, something we do that a lot of other cities don't do is we maintain not all of the subdivision signs, because some are private, but we maintain a majority of the signs in the city to subdivisions. And all down Cameron Trail are all city maintained signs. And we had replaced those 6-7 years ago. And, you know, they were starting to look a little old, so we went out, we did not replace the signs, but our crews went out, repainted them, fixed some of the damage on them, and now they look like brand new signs.
Yeah, that was nice. Nice to hear.
As part of that, are we going to replace the village signs?
So, good question. The village signage was a SPOS project. So we have $180,000 in one of our SPOS projects to replace and or put new village signage throughout the city. So it doesn't have to even, we could actually put them in more places than where they are now, depending on how far that money goes. But yes, there's a SPOS project to replace all the village signage throughout the city.
2017?
2023.
2023.
The newer SPOS. That was put in by the committee from a few years ago that I was involved with. And I think that's one of those projects that it's gonna happen. I don't have a timeline on it for you yet.
That's fine.
But I do think it's one of those, as we talk about this transportation advisory group and those kind of groups, it'd be good to have feedback from, the village sign is just so important to me that I'm like, it needs to be more than just me or staff making the decision for how those village signs should turn out looking. Because these are our organization. So I got no problem with that, but people really are passionate about their villages. So I think, you know, that'll be a bigger thing as we move forward. But yes, it is budgeted. We do have money to do it.
Thank you.
This is our beautiful gateway landscaping a few months ago. You all approved this project, and I showed these pictures to you. You all approved this project early spring, and so now this is what it looks like. So
The guys were out there this afternoon. I drove by it.
They're still working.
Yeah.
They're getting close, but they're still working. We do have the 2-year maintenance agreement with them as well, so the company we hired will maintain this for 2 years as it gets established. I think it looks beautiful. I think it looks great from this, and I'm very happy, or I'm excited to see as everything starts growing. I'm excited to see what it turns into as well over the next 2 years. We showed you these 2 top pictures last year in our presentation. This is some of our median maintenance. This is actually the exact same median that we showed you from last year. And this is, as we move forward, you know, our grounds department they know what the expectations are moving forward with how our medians need to look and how we need to maintain them. And this is the standard that we want to be going by moving forward. So moving on to a thriving, resilient business community. This is not us directly, but just stuff happening in our city. These both are Gersheimer. This is the current Gersheimer site and the new expansion here. And then this is their expansion they're doing off of NACO Way. So we're seeing the stuff you're seeing with the economy and all that stuff has led to a lot of growth in our industrial sector, and a lot of our businesses down that 74 sector investing in doubling, if not tripling, like Gersheimer, the size of their operations. This is Adventure Aviation, kind of in that same park as where the new Gersheimer site's going to go, near the Planterra Golf Course. You can see it over there on the right. They are more than doubling in size. This is Hoshizaki, which is also doing an expansion right off of 74 behind Crosstown. And then this is SP Meditech on South 74 that Councilman Holland, you were at that groundbreaking. Yep. And they're close to opening. Their building is up, and they're getting close to having their certificate of occupancy. So they're right across from Cooper Lighting, and we're excited to see them come into the city as well. All right, and finally moving on to our final pillar of a city organization that is innovative, high-performing, and sustainable. You all have seen this, this is pictures we showed last year, but you've all seen Station 82 in person. You've seen it in this state, and you've seen it kind of as we've been working on transitioning what it looks like now. But last year, I mean, this was the walls, this was the insulation exposed at 82. All the turnout gear was in the bay. Their gym was in the bay. These pictures up top were some we showed last year of the installation, and they're still working. They haven't completed it completely yet. There's some areas that still need some work, but this is what it looks like now. And you'll see this is that same wall. The gym is not there anymore. It's been relocated to another room in the station. The turnout gear has been relocated. The bay is clean of all that now, and then we have also covered all the installation to give the bays a nice clean look. At our Public Works facility, over the past year, they put in nice bright LED lights. Public Works gets called out a good bit for fallen trees, when we have weather emergencies, stuff on the road, anything like that they can get called out for. So when they come in at night, especially if there's a storm, we want them to be able to see what they're doing. And so we put LED lights out there, and when you go out there, it is bright. Like this picture looks like it's bright out there, but if you're there, it looks like daytime when these things light up. So that's been great. And then also, we paved the Public Works complex for the first time in probably 40 years. And so the whole complex out there is looking really nice at Public Works. Public communications, last year was kind of the start of this. We won 3 bronze telly awards. This year we've won a gold for the video they put together on Veterans Day. Which honored our veterans that served in our city organization. We have 2 council members that were in that video, and it won the gold award for telly. We won 11 silvers this year and 3 more bronzes, and then we also, for that Veterans Day video, are nominated for a Southeast Emmy this year. So that's fantastic work by our public communications department as we invest in that department and getting, it's not, we're not investing to win awards, but we're investing to have a better public communications to our citizens. But it's nice for them to get the recognition because they do great work. This was the tennis center, the lower level of the tennis center this time last year. This is Chief Murphy's office. It wasn't his office then. That wasn't his desk then. But this is where he is now. And then this is the downstairs of the tennis center now. So over the past year, and I know Dave, our engineering department and our facilities maintenance department had a huge part in transforming the lower level of the tennis center into what it is now, which is a very functional and very attractive office space. So we're very proud of that. The Fred, every year we try to do something to invest something into the Fred with the amphitheater fund. Last year we did the lawn seating. This year they decided to do the lighting on the stage. So It wasn't just new lighting, it was also putting new beams up that could hold the weight of the new lighting. So it took a collaboration of Dave and Kathy to get that project done. But this was the first show of this year a few weeks ago. You can see like all the designs on the ground, those are all our new lights. And they've been fantastic. I think they add a lot to the shows that are going to be out there this summer and in future years. So 2 more things finally, 2 not capital things we've done, but just initiatives we've done. Is one is we brought back PTC 101. This was our first graduating class of 18 that participated in an 8-week program over the spring. We were excited to have 18 people. We thought that was great for the first time we've had this in over a decade. And they got an inside look into how we operate as a city, how we do things day to day, and just how complex it is to operate the city day to day. So great group of people that we were really happy committed and did this in their free time just to come and learn about how the city operates. So great program that we want to continue for the years to come. And the other one is most recently our interns started this week or last week? Yeah, interns started last week. I just lose track of time. We had our first intern cohort start last week. We had 10 interns that applied and were accepted to participate in our 10-week intern program. They are paid. I think we offer it to rising seniors and college students, and we're excited to have these folks here. Like they're the younger generation. I want to say that. I feel like I'm still younger, but they're way younger than me. So we're excited to work with these younger students and help them learn about how we operate, how local government operates, give them some tasks to do, give them some projects, and set them on the track of being successful in their careers and hopefully get into working in local government and maybe working for Peachtree City. So we're very happy for this program. We also want that to continue for years to come as well. So I'll thank Dr. Tabb for spearheading this project.
I've met 2 of them so far, and they're exceptionally young people. So
one is here.
Yeah, one's here tonight.
Jada.
Jada's here. So we're happy about that. And that is, just a snapshot of some things we've done this past year and some things we've worked on and how it fits into those strategic pillars that we've adopted. There's a lot more that our staff does. I mean, just to operate our city day to day beyond this extra stuff takes a lot. And it takes a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of work and effort by these folks out here and by everybody that works with them. So I'm really proud to work in this city and work with the people I work with and see the things that they're able to get done beyond just this little glimpse of things that we do. So that's kind of the end of our presentation. I will, I have the calendar up here for you all of future dates regarding the budget. The next workshop we have is Tuesday, June 18th, 2 weeks from tonight, where we actually are going to go through the budget more specifically and talk about things that we're proposing. After that, we're going to have a public hearing on the budget at our only meeting in July 11th. And then we will be bringing the budget forward to council on August 1st for possible adoption. And then August 15th, you'll see the CVB and KPTCB. We usually do that right after the general fund budget. So we will open it up to any questions or comments from council.
I just wanted to say that I think you're doing a great job,
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
and your staff too.
Thank you.
That's what I think. I think it's the staff.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I've always been proud to live in Peachtree City. Now I'm proud to represent Peachtree City. And the more I learn about everything that you guys do, and when we see presentations like this and you can see the obvious amount of work that's gone into it, makes me even more proud to be a part of the city.
I just can't believe how many of those pictures were taken on such sunny days, Justin.
Thank you. All set?
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All
Any other
done.
questions, council? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.